Good morning, everybody. Good morning. TGIF. Friday morning. Wow. Just got done watching Kelsey this morning. They're still going strong over there. And there's Thomas, one of our very own, the center of attention. Kudos, Thomas. Good job. Quite a story. Quite a story. I think they did the drawing, and I think Juliet won it. Wow, wow, wow. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Let's see. What am I supposed to do now? I think. Oh yeah. Right up there. Drink it if you got it. Drink it if you got it. As we wait for people, Kelsey's still going. Imagine they're going to say goodbye pretty soon. How are we doing over here? We got 31 whole people, it says. Wow. Wow. 36 people. All right. The class is tardy this morning. We'll have to give them time to show up. And I imagine we need to give Kelsey a little time to wrap things up over there. It is Friday, after all. Up, they're waving. Hey, there you go. Bye. Goodbye. Okay. Bye again. I can't really find fault with him because I can't ever seem to get out of here in the morning, you know. I just can't seem to ever get out of here. So I understand how it is, especially when you got 4 people talking. With me, it's just me. So let's see. Yes, people are coming in. 42, and he is done, and that will bring us back to me. So how are you, everybody? Good to see you this morning. And who have we got here? I don't have a whole list of things to talk about today. I thought we'd try to keep it from going an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'd like to do a little more interacting with the chat, and focus on some of the things that you come here for. Now, sometimes that creates a problem for me because many of you come to the party and don't care who the host is. And you go off on your own things and you have your own conversations and your own little mini question and answer sessions in the chat that don't even involve me. So I have a hard time sometimes fitting in to my own live stream. So I'm here. I do this every morning, not because I think I'm that smart, but because I may have something to add that maybe somebody else in the group hasn't thought of. Maybe I have some insights or opinions. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But I would like to think that people come in here to find out what I think. It's my show. And if the chat slows down a little bit without the and it's it's a conundrum a conundrum for me. And the reason is, in one respect, comments and chats drive YouTube to think you're more popular and helps promote your channel. Great. Friendship, community, and camaraderie are what it's all about. And I want to encourage that. But I'm encouraging myself right out of a job, because it's getting to the point where sometimes I think that I'm superfluous to this morning stream. I feel like I'm just coming to the party. I don't even know who's throwing the party. So I'm trying to find a balance in that without hurting anybody's feelings. Kind of like a professor or a teacher in a classroom. When the class gets a little rowdy, he raps something on the desk and says, "Class, calm down, pay attention, I'm trying to teach." And in that respect, I think YouTube is a classroom. Because if that wasn't the case, everybody could just go to a Discord server and chat away all day long. So we're going to try that today. I sent Peter. I see Peter's here. Hi, Peter. How you doing? And Peter's doing a good job as a moderator. I mean, he takes it seriously, and I truly appreciate the job he's done. But Peter, and it's one of the things I love about the guy, is that he just wants to help everybody, and I'm the same way. I want to help everybody. And he wants to answer questions, and he wants to inject his opinion in things, and not for any reason other than wanting to help. I'm the same way, and I've had to learn over my lifetime that maybe when I'm sitting in another professor's classroom, maybe I shouldn't try to be so helpful all the time, and it goes against our natural personality types. So I actually sent Peter an email today, this morning, and I was wondering if I pissed him off or drove him away, but he's here. I'm glad to see that. I said, "Hey, Peter, do me a favor." And I don't have any secrets from anybody. "Hey, Peter, do me a favor. Help me slow it down a little bit. Help me slow down the chat so that I can keep up with it, so that I can actually be a guest at my own party." And I didn't get a chance to talk to Peter about it, but my stream is not Kilt's stream. Kilt and Nelson will rarely, if ever, get to all of the things talked about in the chat or the conversations because they have 4 people on the screen keeping them busy. And Kilt's has got Instagram, and he's got KMT, and he's got all this other stuff. He can't possibly, nor can anybody, answer every thought, every comment, every subject, every topic of the audience. And that's why he needs these moderators, and maybe moderator is not even the correct term, because the term moderate means to get it under control. In essence, slow it down a little bit. "Moderate your speeding," said the officer to you. The purpose of a moderator in a channel like mine is to corral in and keep this topic steered towards what the host or the professor is doing at the moment, not to, like they do in Kiltz's, jump in and basically be a co-host and interact with everybody and answer everybody's questions and say hello to everybody and inject their opinions all the time. That's not what I want when I want a moderator. Now, that kind of stuff is very helpful in a channel like Kiltz's, because it enables people that come in that know they're going to be ignored because there's just so much going on. It enables them to be a part of it. But in here, I've been desperately struggling with how to do this without basically offending anybody, making anybody feel unwelcome, and still valuing somebody that's got my back. And from what I know of Peter, believe me, Peter's got my back. So I appreciate that. So let's see if we can direct more of the questions and conversations and the subsequent opinions my way, so that maybe Mitch can feel like he's a part of the party, not just trying to be the parent and ride herd over all the unruly children there. Now, like most things that I say in an effort not to offend anybody, to make everybody feel welcome, that will be wildly misunderstood, and people will say, well, Mitch, oh God, go to hell. I hope that didn't happen. I hope I can explain it in a way that it makes sense. It makes it easier for me to not miss something you're trying to find out, that maybe I can help. Now, maybe I can't help. Maybe Peter and some of the other people can be a better help than me on certain things. So be it. So be it. Let me say hi to people. Oh my God. I'm not ready for this. Not ready for this. First one in. Now I'm ready. First one in last night. There you go. Hi, Rick. How you doing? And Smoothie was in shortly thereafter. Peter says, see you tomorrow. Jem was here last night. Hi, Jem. How are you? Mitch, great walk. I'm Mitch Information. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've adopted it. It wasn't my idea, those terms. I've adopted your terms. Mitch Information. I like that. Whether it's any good or not, that's for you to decide. Thomas, good job today. Good job today, man. And Tuka was here last night. We had a great live stream last night. Private community. Patty's Garden at 4:05 a.m. And Brian Dish come chiming in. And Brian spells Mitch Fist with a Z on the end. DGIF. Yeah, another week down at 2. Where did it go? Peter chimed in this morning, says, good morning, everybody, at 6:58, right after Kelsey. And we have a new member of the private community. Juliet Marie joined, and it's not the Juliet that we know. We have another Juliet now. Welcome to you. Look forward to seeing you at the live streams as well. Mike Sealy Sr. chimed in and said hi. Barry Simon, good morning to you. Lambs said good morning. Jeff Stresslike is here from Goose Creek, South Carolina. Hi, Jeff, and how we doing on time here? Rick chimed in at 6:58. Aaron. Good morning, Aaron. How you doing? How are the kids? Well, I hope. And Smoothie chimed in this morning. Bill Cook's going for a walk. CB. Hiya, CB. How are you? And Robbie jumped the gun a little bit today. Robbie jumped the gun. The photo finish is on. The winner this morning. Lamb's got you this morning. Lamb's got you. You two guys really know how to play the game. And then Rick chimed in. Anthony's here. And what else? Charlie Faircloth chimed in. How you doing, Charlie? And Marla Kelly is here this morning. And Steve Rogers, Captain America, superhero in the house from Kansas City, Missouri, followed by the name you know. That's right, Jeff Johnson. I assume you all know why I do that. I've explained it a couple times, and if you're all in the dark about why I say Jeff Johnson, a name you know, let me know. I will. I'll explain it again. And Rick says, good morning. I didn't know you were German. Rick points out that this is the day before Mitch's day off. Yeah, I'm going to take the day off tomorrow and maybe play with that new air fryer I'm getting today. Just what I friggin' needed. Another air fryer. Who is this? I don't recognize this. Patty Stordahl. Stand with Israel, Genesis. Patty, appreciate the thought. I appreciate the thought. I certainly appreciate the thought and any support for Israel. But I ask everybody, including Jews, to leave the Bible out of this forum. This is not about religion. I try to make it not about religion. So I'll ask you, I'll welcome you and say thank you for coming, but I'll please, let's keep religious opinions and biblical quotes and references to the Bible, if we can, out of this. This is a scientific, 100% scientific channel about health and diet, relying on nothing but things we've learned from studies of anthropology, paleoanthropology, genetics, and evolution. Got to come from somewhere, and that's where I come from. So with respect, and somebody who certainly supports Israel and their right to exist, and the battle they're fighting with the other religions that want to annihilate them simply because of their religion. I'm a strong proponent of basically ending all of that everywhere in the world. But we're talking about eating meat here. Eating meat here. Loretta, walk. Meatitudes. Can't forget that. How you doing? It was great to see you last night. Loretta was on our private community live stream. The one woman in a sea of men. Brave girl. It was great to see you last night. It was great to see you. Be Cool Cat is here this morning. How are you? And Julian is back. Hello, good morning. Payday, Mitch Coffee Day. Oh, I like the way you think. Julian. God, I love having people shilling for me. It's great. That's great. And, wow, the woman puts her money where her mouth is. Holy cow. She sends me 5 coffees. You are the best. Thank you for all you do for all of us. Wow. Thank you so much, Julian. And I'm getting a kick out of, I'm really elated at the way that you're diving into this thing, and that you are starting to grow your channel. So you got a supporter with me, and I appreciate the support. And not only do I appreciate the support, but I'm going to use that as an excuse for a shameless plug for my buy me a coffee link. And I like that. That would be a great trend to start. This would be the first weekly Buy Me a Coffee Friday for Mitch. So maybe I can afford actually buy a ribeye over the weekend. No, I'm joking. I can afford to buy a ribeye. Don't need any benefits for me. So there's my coffee link in case anybody would like to say thank you. And if you want to say something else to me, like that begins with the FU, you can say that too, but do that privately. Send me an email. And Smoothie says, congrats on your KMT win. Yes, Juliet, who's the big winner this morning. And I see a question here from Francine. Let me go ahead and answer that now, even though I haven't gotten to it in the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Juliet, that thing. But Francine says, Mitch, can you explain what are oxalates and the damage they do to us? Wow. That's the subject of a half-hour video, Francine. But in a nutshell, and I mean, in a nutshell, oxalates, and the word comes from oxa, which means they are a compound that can be oxidized. Means it's got open bonds in the molecular structure that oxygen could just fit in. And oxidizing is kind of like what rust happens to metal, is that pure iron has many of these same bonds that have available attach points for molecules of oxygen. And the oxygen just attaches itself and changes the composition of the iron where a coating of rust gets on top. And we have this happen in our body to a lot of our cells, to our red blood cells, and we call that oxidative damage. So what happens is we have these compounds in us that are easily oxidized, and therefore we stress the need to take antioxidants to try to keep these things from chemically bonding with oxygen and changing their physical characteristics, because once the thing, and that is basically what an oxalate does. So if we have all these natural compounds in our body that are oxidizable, the last thing we would want to eat are things that are easily oxidizable. And those are things called oxalates. And the oxalates are in greater quantities in certain foods. Now, what happens when we eat these oxalates? Well, they're eager to provide that free oxygen to anything in our body that will bond with it and become oxidized. Well, when these oxalates combine with so many of these what we call free radicals in the body, it forms a crystalline structure, needle-like, glass shard-like substance in our body that the body has to try to get rid of. But these things are like little needles. They're very sharp. They get everywhere. The body's trying to get rid of them. They get into your kidneys because you're trying to excrete them in your urine. In your kidneys, they get stuck to everything. They form kidney stones because they have combined with calcium to become what's called a calcium oxalate. They have crystals. They get everywhere in your body. They get in your joints. They get in your eyes. Your body keeps trying to get them out of the way, and it crams them in nooks and crannies and joints and crevices, intercellular spaces. And the more of this stuff you eat, the more of these oxalates form, glass crystal-like, sharp as hell shards and needles. And you accumulate them, and they start creating havoc, and they start giving you pain in your joints, and your body just wants them gone. But you keep eating these so-called superfoods and health foods. And these foods, like chocolate and almonds and spinach and leafy greens and all of the so-called healthy foods you're supposed to eat, they call them superfoods, are killing us. And we accumulate all these oxalates, and the body can't keep up with getting rid of them. Then all of a sudden, Francine goes on a carnivore diet and stops eating oxalates completely. The body says, here's our chance. Let's get this crap out of us. And it starts dumping oxalates. And that's when the problems start, because it starts dumping oxalates so fast that causes more problems than the oxalates cause. And that's where Sally Norton and her advice comes in, to maybe you need to eat a few of these things and slow down the dumping. And you play a fine balance. But that's what oxalates are. And that's the short explanation. So I don't want to go, because it's a very complicated subject. But I hope I answered that for you. I hope I answered that from you. There's another question. How does where our ancestors are from, this is from Jerry Voitish, influence our current nutrient? Let me do that. Let me do this, Jerry. That's not too far down the road. Let me start looking for questions in the chat. And I want to try to answer more questions today than I usually do. Maybe pull back on the saying hi to everybody, but I will say hi to Donna Ray, Main Runner. How you doing? We Networkers here. Barry Simon had a super chat, and it says, the reasons we are here is you. Barry, thank you so much. I would hope so. Otherwise, I would just throw this on the screen, play a little music in the background, and let you guys chat away. I could do that. I could start a live stream, just let it run for 2 hours and call it Mitch's Lounge. have a dancing monkey on the screen, a little good jazz in the background, then everybody could visit with each other. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I probably get a lot of views on that. People do that. People do that they have music. They have an excuse for a lounge, like a jazz coffee shop or a coffee lounge or something, and they just let it run 24 hours a day. And people come in, come and go, listen to the music, chat a little bit. And they get paid for the views. Sounds like a less work, more money for Mitch, but I don't think I'd enjoy it. Bill Cook's here. How you doing, Bill? Peter said, thanks, Mitch. You're welcome, Peter. You know that I'm just trying to fine-tune this thing so it can work for me and I don't become a harried mess at the end of it, trying to figure out what I forgot, what I didn't get to, how do I write herd on this. But it is, wow, here is a name energy, frequency, vibration. I'm 45, disabled, veteran, and wheelchair-bound, have been on the carnivore diet for 90 days, lost a bunch of weight, and physical therapy has improved dramatically. Glad to hear that, but I like your name, energy, frequency, vibration. At the heart of everything. It really is. Even on a molecular level, it's the frequency that everything in the universe is vibrating at and resonating that creates matter and everything else. So interesting. And also interesting is the fact that that particular mouse has crapped out like it usually does sometime during my stream, and I don't know why it does that, but I have to once again go in here and reset my other mouse so I can use it in my left hand, and I have done that. Okay. Paul Murray, good morning to you. Paul says good morning, and let me move on through this. Rick says hello to me, and I need to look at the questions. Brian Dish has a question. Mitch, do you think that diabetes, heart issues can be passed on from parents to children? Why would one child get it, the other one doesn't? I have an opinion on that. And that's always that's the heredity or environment argument that just reigns supreme in this world. How do you explain the fact that in the same family, siblings come out wildly different? One of them's a scholar, one of them is a criminal. Did they get it from their parents, or is it a result of how they were raised, their environment, the friends that they kept, the circles they traveled in, the influences that they got off of TV? Or was it predetermined? Was it in their genes and nothing they could do would ever be able to do anything about it? We have the same argument about diseases. Well, my parents had diabetes, so I'm sentenced to it. I'm doomed. I think that genetics certainly play a role, but you have to understand what information is actually carried in our genetics. And that's another subject of great controversy. In reality, we have DNA. In our DNA, we have what they call genes, which basically have the code for a protein, and pretty much everybody's protein codes are the same as everybody else's, and certainly you're not going to vary wildly enough to predetermine whether somebody is absolutely going to be a diabetic or not. There's a lot of other information that's carried, but as science says, 90% of the information you have in your DNA is just garbage and is not used. I don't believe that either. I think it's a lot more sophisticated than that, because it has to be. Then you have the whole field of what they call epigenetics. Epigenetics is a lot of more recent information that's passed from parent to child, that doesn't really control the protein coding aspect of the genetics, but it controls which of these genes get expressed, transcribed, and eventually used to produce proteins, or which genes just stay wrapped up tight in the chromosomes and are never seen or heard from. So that brings another thing. You may have a certain gene in your genetics, but your epigenetics never find the need to express it, so it does nothing. It just lays there. It's like a book, an old book in a dusty library. Nobody ever goes, asks for it, gets it off the shelf, opens it up, and reads it. And we have 25,000 genes that code for proteins. We don't use every one of those proteins. So is it more important that your epigenetics have information that goes into the library, gets a dusty book off the shelf and opens it up and reads it? Or is it something else that you're doing chemically to your body that's stimulating the things that cause diabetes? Are you an addict? Are you a sugar addict? Because we've seen that more important than whether your mom and pop has got diabetes is whether your addictions are compelling you to eat sugar. And then you have to look into that, well, why is that? Why is it? Why are we addicted? Why can't we fight the urges? And I think the answers to that are more in what they call epigenetics and genetics. It's a fabulously complicated field of study. I don't think there's any scientific way to prove it one way or another, because there's just too many variables involved to run any kind of a scientific study where you have to narrow the variables down to just one thing. I think it would be impossible. I think it'd never be done. So we have to look at what they call epidemiological evidence. And the epidemiological evidence of whether it runs in the family or whether there's some other force, I would think sugar is the pure winner, and sugar addiction is the reason. Because we see, even when people have so much diabetes in their family, it was more than likely because those family members were sugar addicts too. And if you went back far enough in the family, 4 generations, 5 generations, 6 generations, and you had accurate information, this is my opinion, I think you would really find there wasn't any diabetes in your family until they screwed up our diet and made us all sugar addicts. And in that respect, yeah, the family that we're getting our diabetic tendencies from is not our real great-great-great-grandparents. It's from those people that were addicted by Nabisco and Ansel Keys and all that. And in that respect, it does run in that family. The family of the standard American diet. I'll drink to that, and you do too. Now, there could be a genetic inherited thing that causes your pancreas not to work good. And in that case, yeah, if going back 3 or 4 generations, if every one of your relatives was a type 1 diabetic, yeah, in that case, there may be a physiological cause. And yeah, you might have it. But I think we blame too much. We blame too much on genetics and not enough on lifestyle and environment. And our environment is that we're all drowning in a veritable ocean of sugar and other poisonous things and oxidative crap like seed oils and oxalates. And the culprit, whoever started it made this stuff the normal way and labeled it as healthy food and good for us in an effort to save the cows, I guess. I don't know. I hope I answered that question for you. Brian, that's a good question. And some of these questions could lead to discussions that last for days. They're not simple questions to answer. Trying to make them simple, I don't think really makes people think. And just, okay, move on to the next question. All right, I'm up to 714 in this chat here. Let me continue to look for questions if I see anybody. CB says Carb Addicts Anonymous. Yeah. CB had a great interview with Juliet. Great interview. I'm looking forward to seeing some of CB's activity on YouTube. He's going to become a YouTube star. And CB, you know that anything I can do to help you out, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it for you, man. Although, you got to be careful. Associating with me might be more harmful to you than not. So, that's my cautionary disclaimer. Thomas, good to see you this morning. Congratulations, man. Did a good job. Presented yourself well. Every time I hear your story, I feel for you. Oh, man, what an ordeal. And those things just, you end up being stuck with them. They're going to influence the rest of your life, just like this stroke I had is going to influence the rest of my life. And you just have to say, okay, this is the hand I've been dealt. I'm going to play it the best that I can. And Thomas, you're doing a great job, my friend. I admire your courage and fortitude, and don't make me come spank you if I find out that you've fallen off the wagon. Don't make me. That's called tough love, Thomas. Here's a question that I answered already from Francine about oxalates. I hope I did that justice for a quick little answer. Who's this guy? Old guy carnivore. I appreciate it. Begging for coffee. Go away. Smoothie. Congrats on your KMT win. Oh, Juliet. Yeah. And okay, people are chatting away. Good to see it. Thank you, Peter. Caught that one. And another question coming up is from Jerry. And this is where I said I want to go back and make sure I didn't miss any. Thanks for your patience, Jerry. How does where our ancestors are from influence our current nutrition? Good morning from Ponte Vedra Beach. I have been having issues with Buy Me a Coffee. Several emails back and forth. I don't understand that, but don't worry about it, Jerry. I appreciate the effort. They come through every once in a while, and I always appreciate your support and your friendship. And CB Carmack says, Peter's not doing his job letting this old guy carnivore troll posting links in the chat. Joke. Yeah. I like that, CB. That's fine. Yeah, I don't have a lot of trolls here, so I have to be my own troll. My own troll fishing for coffee. That's great, man. Thanks. And that's what my one fear with Peter making a moderator was that he would ban me from my own channel. So you got to be careful these days and give somebody the power. Okay, Jerry, how does where our ancestors are from? Well, believe it or not, all of these questions require a lot of consideration and have tons of factors involved trying to figure that out. Everything was great on this planet. You have to always look back to history. And I don't just mean what happened in World War II. I mean history. And sometimes you got to look back to even before the first hominids, the first bipedal humans, millions of years ago, to find answers for some of these things. Because what do we inherit from our ancestors? Nothing. Not a single atom in our body, not a single thing we're made of. Do we inherit from our parents? Oh, yeah, when you're first born, you're built out of all the stuff that comes from the nutrition that your mother fed you. But what did you really inherit from your parents at the time of conception, when that egg was fertilized and split into two cells. From that point on, what did you inherit from what your parents were? One chromosome from your father and one from your mother. They combined and created a different genetic molecule, the combination of your father's DNA and your mother's DNA. And that's the last thing on a physical level, on a building block level, that you got from your parents. And what was that? That was a blueprint. It's like if an architect comes on a building site with a set of blueprints in his hand, and eventually a house gets built. Was any of the material that's in that house after it's finished contained in that blueprint, in that paper? The answer is no. All we inherit from those that came before us is programming code. It's a set of instructions of how and what sequence of organic chemical reactions has to occur to build a living organism according to the plans. So then you have to say to yourself, okay, if when we were born, who or what or how dictated what's contained in these instructions? And that's where the inherited stuff comes in. But back in those days, up until recently, natural selection and evolution could, and the concept of survival of the fittest could play itself out. Because we never went anywhere. Most organisms on this planet never were found more than a few miles from home until they started migrating because of changing climate and conditions for survival's sake. But that gave us a chance to adapt. And most of that adaptation happened in the epigenetics. And we passed the learned lessons of adapting to things. Again, most of them were local. We passed them on to our offspring in our DNA, but primarily the adaptive changes come in the epigenetics, which genes are becoming expressed. And we adapted to our environments, and the ones that survived were the ones that were the fittest to survive in that environment. And those traits we passed on to our descendants, and they were born already pre-programmed to better adapt to the environment that their parents lived in. And that's how instinctual knowledge is passed from generation to generation. How does a deer know to run from a lion? How does he know that? How does my parrot know how exactly to preen her feathers and zip them all up when the feathers, she never had feathers before. Nobody taught her. It's ingrained. It's in our epigenetics. We are born with an operating system telling us pretty much how our parents and their parents and their parents were able to survive in these particular conditions. That's pure evolution. Nothing's interfering with it except natural phenomenon, weather, climate change, tectonic plate movement, whatever, that throws a monkey wrench in and requires the organism to readapt to some new environment. And it went on like that until we got smart, the first animals to actually be aware of their existence, and we started manipulating these things, and we started moving around, and that's where we're so screwed up now. And Jerry, your question is, How does where our ancestors came from influence our current nutrition? Well, Jerry, that's the key. And most people today cannot trace their ancestry back more than a few generations because we're traveling so much, or moving around so much, or changing our situations. We're changing our environment. We're changing our diet advice. We have short-stopped evolution completely, and we're becoming homogenized as a species. And pretty soon, in not too many more generations, there'll be no black people, no white people. There'll be just a caramel-colored bunch of homogenous humans that don't have to travel for food, don't need to find their food in their local environment because everything is being transported, manufactured, shipped in, and we're being fed all that stuff. So we are at a point right now where, unfortunately, we can hardly tell how to live anymore. By looking back at how our ancestors lived, we've completely screwed the pooch. That's my opinion. It's a great question. It could prompt discussion for years. But for all intents and purposes, and I've heard this same opinion from great scientific minds, there is no Darwinian evolution anymore. Everything we are adapting ourselves to is bad advice from people wanting to sell things. And we've completely short-stopped it, and now we're manipulating the very genetic coding itself. What chance do we stand? Great question, Jerry. I hope I didn't overdo the answer to that, but that's how I think. I think about that stuff every day. I think about what really is going on and how did we screw it up. And it's enormous, and I don't know if it's fixable or not. Jeff Johnson said, really good explanation of oxalates. Thanks, Mitch. I think still, if you want to really research oxalates, get Sally Norton's book. Get this book. I think this book should be in everybody's library who's trying to be healthy, whether they're carnivore or not, especially if they're not carnivore. Because all the stuff that they're telling you you're supposed to eat is the stuff that's killing you. It's that simple. My advice to anybody now is listen to their advice, listen very carefully, and then do exactly the opposite. It's amazing, but that works. That's what we're trying to do. And I got to have a talk with my friend Kilsey this morning because I watched him talking about his numbers and his test results. And I could see that he's a little concerned about his high CAC score or higher CAC score and his high LDL and all, and trying to jive that with the healthy diet that we think we're on. And I think those numbers are all misinterpreted and used for things that they should not be, which is why I don't want to see numbers anymore, period. I want to go by how I feel. I don't want to have to toe the line and conform to somebody else's idea of what a healthy human being is. I can look out of my eyes and tell who's sick and who's not. Yes, I had a stroke. But that only tells a tiny little bit of the story. I'm healthier now than I have ever been in my life, even after the stroke. I feel better. My mind is clear. I don't think anybody out there can say, Mitch is confused. Mitch is suffering from dementia. Mitch can't make a coherent thought happen. I don't think anybody, I can prove them wrong. I can outthink most people on this planet. How can that be a sign of bad health? Especially with, I'll match my LDL to Kilsey's any day of the week, and I'm proud of it. I think it's beneficial. I think what studies we do have that are legitimate actually show that the people with the longest longevity have the highest LDL, not the lowest. But society doesn't like those people. Society has no use for those people. Why? They're not spending any money on drugs and doctors. What do we need them for? How did we get here? I know how we got here. That's the point. It makes me angry. I can't be dispassionate about this. And I hope that's the reason people come to see me, is that partake in a little of that passion that I have for trying to fix it, even though I know it's unfixable. And that the fix would be more harmful than good to the overall economy and everything else, and we create hunger and starvation and suffering if we all of a sudden outlawed the bad food. There wouldn't be enough food. So you got to be careful. We have to be careful what we wish for. And sometimes I say, maybe we'd be better off with this, keeping this closely guarded secret to ourselves, so we don't have to be so competitive at the meat counter. Let me look for some more questions. We're doing good. It's 10 minutes to. I am only 20, believe it or not, 20 minutes behind. Perfect. Peter is defending my my little speech this morning about how I like to view this as my classroom. Some people think that might be unreasonable of me. Well, thank you, Peter, for defending my right to have order in my classroom, and not to be accused of constitutional freedom of speech violations, because I don't want you to say anything on anything you want, whether it's contradictory to what I'm doing or not. We do have the right to control things that happen in our own house. We're allowed to do that. That's why you can't walk into a college professor's lecture hall, stand up in the middle of his lecture, and start yelling radical political and religious propaganda and interrupting the entire class and yelling that you can't stop me, you'll be infringing on my freedom of speech. As the professor calls campus security, it has you hauled off. That's not what freedom of speech means. That's what's being sold to you by people who want to disrupt everybody and use freedom of speech as a sad excuse. That's not what it means. It's not what it means. And I don't buy into that either. Now, if it's a public park, I have a right to set up a soapbox and preach all I want. People have the right to not listen to me and wander away. But not on my property. And this channel on YouTube is my property. I have the power and the right to ban anybody from it without any constitutional violations. Maybe some hurt feelings. Maybe people want to come and kill me because of it. That's just the world we live in. And it is getting worse. I don't want to talk about the political implications these days, but things are really, we have to be very careful going forward now, or people are going to be getting shot all over the place. And then who gets blamed? The gun. I saw it yesterday. Gun control is responsible for Charlie Kirk's murder. Radicals. We need to outlaw radicals. How do you do that? Because we're radicals. We're radical dieters. So I guess what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I don't want people coming to me and say, you're bankrupting us because you're eating meat and you're therefore getting sick and sucking all the money out of the healthcare system and hurting everybody in the country, so you're a criminal. I don't want that logic to catch hold, and it could very well these days. Peter's doing his moderating jobs, hiding a comment. Thank you, Peter. I don't even know what it was. May not have even been that bad, but Peter thought that it wasn't appropriate. That's why I trust Peter to be a moderator. Peter says Ellen is much better at this moderator job than I am, but I'm learning. Thank you, Peter. And it depends on the channel. I think he'll relies on you guys to keep the chat going, because he's not trying to keep up with it. That's the big difference. If Kelsey had to keep up with the chat, he would be nuts. But he's got Nelson and Alia. Alia looks out for the questions, and he ignores the chat, pretty much. He can't keep up with all this stuff. He's trying to keep up with Instagram. He's trying to keep up with the KMT chat. That's enough to drive anybody crazy. Ubi Goat says the A1C question. Did I miss something? Ubi goes, did you like my question this morning, Thomas? Oh, okay. That's she's talking to Thomas. Not for me. Not for me. Smoky Bear Lovers here, Sue. How you doing? Everybody's talking to everybody else. I'm going to look for the questions, because I'm doing okay this morning. 5 minutes to 8. I am 10 minutes behind in the chat. See? Works perfectly. Perfectly. I got to answer a lot of questions, a lot of good questions today. I hope I tried to answer them simply, but they were very complicated subjects. And the problem is we tend to oversimplify so many of these complicated subjects and really never get a meaningful answer. Sometimes just the so-called conventional wisdom, which I found is not wise at all. The conventional wisdom means when the majority of the people believe something, chances are it's bullshit. And it's propaganda put there by somebody else that's trying to steal their money. That's sad. That's sad. Okay, any more questions? Please, Peter says. Peter's moderating. Please ask Mitch your question and be sure to put the letters Q in front of it. Thank you, Peter. And Peter, it's perfect. Perfect today. Perfect today. It's going to enable me to get through it. Peter says, Mitch says, no, you guys can talk about whatever you want. I don't want to stifle any conversation between you. If you want to ask each other, go right ahead, chat away. That's fine. I want Peter to not involve himself in every one of those conversations so he can do his job as a moderator. And if Peter doesn't want to be a moderator anymore, all you got to do is tell me, and I'll take the lunch away, and you can chat all you want. But I'm trying to moderate the number of entries in the chat down, not increase them. That was my point with Peter this morning, and he understood, and he's doing great. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. If I can get to this point, and I'm at 7:53 in the chat right before 8 o'clock, and it's 8 o'clock, and I know that I haven't missed any questions to date so far, then I think I've been able to do more good and maybe set people thinking in what I think are better directions to try to figure out the whys and not just listen to somebody else tell you the hows or the whats, but figure out why you're doing what you're doing, maybe a little deeper understanding. Then that's what I'm here for. And I don't have to go for 2 hours trying to catch up every day. DS, I love that question. Mitch, if you leave the house all day after breakfast, do you need to eat at midday? I don't think so. It depends on your own schedule and your own style. Do you eat OMAD? Do you eat 2 meals a day? Very few of carnivores eat 3 meals a day, but some of them do. Do you eat until you're completely satiated? Or do you basically have a set amount that you eat? Do you even eat breakfast? I don't. I call it breakfast. It's usually around noon because I'm my first meal of the day, but some people like to eat a big breakfast in the morning. There are many people who say you should eat in the morning. There are people who say you shouldn't eat in the morning. There are people who say don't eat at night. Don't go to bed on a full stomach. Then along comes Kiltsy and says, I eat one meal a day, one big meal right before bed. And people say, well, Kiltsy, is that a good idea? He says, well, who said it was bad to sleep after you eat? Lions do it all the time. So there's always an argument you may make for anything. Do what you feel. Do what makes you feel best. I basically am a complete food freedom now. I'm never hungry, never craving, could care less about whether I eat or not. I say I could eat, so I eat. Sometimes I eat a second meal, sometimes I don't. I just go with what my instincts tell me, and that I think is the best advice for anybody. You can't eat to a schedule unless you live to a schedule, and each one of us lives differently. And it's that schedule, not somebody else's standard advice, that should dictate how you do it. And it's got to just feel right. What's that old saying? No rules, just right. It took me a lifetime to discover that. Not a bad way to live. Not a bad way to live. And it doesn't apply to me, DS, because I don't hardly ever leave the house anymore, so. That's funny, yeah. Thank you, Peter. I saw that question, and I got to it in a timely manner. Aaron has a question. Do you think hiccups are the result of heart problems? I have no friggin' idea why we hiccup. It's just something in the diaphragm. I never researched it. If I started to research it and really took it seriously, I could probably find some evolutionary reason why it aided the survival of a certain human species at a certain point in their evolution. And that's why we've inherited the mechanisms that allow us to hiccup and what caused it. Because everything that happens to us has a reason rooted in evolution. I'm firmly convinced of that, and it's fun. It's fun. So, and then another question, when's the last time you had a hiccup? Oh, I get maybe once every couple of months I might hiccup for some reason. I have no idea. You talking to me, but have you had hiccups lately? Is that the problem? You're trying to figure out why? Believe it, Aaron, you really get rid of hiccups. Okay. Well, I don't think we can solve the whole hiccup problem here this morning. Aaron also says, do hiccups cut? Oh, no. Sorry, Aaron. We've hiccuped ourselves out. We've hiccuped ourselves out. And who is this? This is Indiana Carnivore. Who is Blake Donaldson? I have no friggin' idea. No idea. Because I don't know everything. Are we serious, or are we just getting silly here at the end of this stream? We got to the end of the stream. 8:03. A new record. Wow. Not the biggest audience in the world. 90 of you, but I'm happy. Everybody's talking about hiccups. Ori Weitzel's here. He is the author of Strongman. Andy, no, I'm not familiar with him. I'm not familiar with him. I don't read carnivore books. I don't read somebody's conclusions that they put in books. I just don't do it. Never read a Ken Berry book. Never read Sean Baker's book. Never read an Anthony Chafee book. Never even read a Kilt's book. I'm not interested in somebody else's conclusions. I never have been. Never have been. Everybody's conclusions are personal, biased in many ways, the result of what they've learned without containing any reference to the things that they've not learned yet. The younger an author, the less credibility I lend to their conclusions. They haven't been around long enough. I buy books that I buy, like Toxic Superfoods, are for not conclusions, but facts, but charts and tables and oxalate levels and theories. Because you can theorize, but I'm not interested. I'm not interested because I don't want my conclusions biased or influenced by their thinking. I want to make my own conclusions based on my own logic and my own reasoning, whether it be right or wrong. I want to understand how that was arrived at. So there's a lot of great books out there, and a lot of people have written some tremendous stuff with great advice. I look at some of it, but I don't elevate these authors to the idol worship category. That's just me. I've always been that way since I was a kid. I don't care what you think. Let me come to my own conclusion. And if it's wrong, I'll own it. Tammy Petard says, question, I received my creatine is 2 tablespoons. Your creatine should have a scoop in it. It should have a scoop in it. Dig, Tammy. I had to. I opened my creatine when I first got it, and I looked in and I said, how the hell do I measure this? And then I said, I bet you there's a scoop buried down in the powder. And I burrowed down there, and sure enough, there was a scoop. And the scoop is 5 grams. And yes, it's probably a heaping teaspoonful is about, because all these scoops that come with these supplements, not all these powders weigh exactly the same per teaspoon. Some of them are more dense than others. So the scoop that comes in my leucine is bigger for 5 grams. So the leucine is fluffier than the creatine. So chances are there's a scoop down in there. But if not, 5 grams is about a heaping teaspoon of that stuff. And you can't overdo it. I mean, if you take 6, 7 grams, it's okay too. Interesting question. Terry Sue said that 1 teaspoon is 5 grams. It's possible. It's about that much. But not of everything. Not of everything. 1 teaspoon of lead is certainly not the same as 1 teaspoon of chopped up feathers. You know, there is density to be considered. Aaron says, is having blood pressure 87/64 with a pulse of 73 okay? I can't tell you that. Sounds a little low. Sounds a little low. How do you feel? That's not a question to ask me. Just according to what everybody else says, yeah, they'd say you have low blood pressure. My mother had low blood pressure, and there are doctors out there who do know some things about that kind of stuff, and it's good to consult them. You're not dizzy, okay. It's the same thing with blood sugar. Is the blood sugar 50 okay? Well, for some people, it's hypoglycemic already, and they're going to pass out and die. Other people, no problem. Depends on how you're adapted, your level of metabolic health. Okay, I think I got to the end. And now we're just chatting back and forth, answered all the questions. Yay me. So let me play a little happy music. And you guys can say goodbye in the chat. And I will start basically by a couple of days off. And probably put out a video over the weekend and be back here on Sunday morning with an open panel for everybody, not just private community members. And we always have fun on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. We'll be following Kiltsy, so you can sleep in, and we'll be here. Brian Dish says, this is interesting. I'm trying to figure this one out. Brian says, how did you feel while you were cooking those burgers while you had your stroke? Brian, that's a great question. Because I just put some hamburgers on. I went over to the couch. I kind of sat down on the couch. I must have felt tired, because why would I go to the couch? I don't remember. And I laid down, and then I said to myself, I got to go flip the burgers, and I tried to get up, and I couldn't. And evidently, that's exactly when I had the stroke. So I have no idea what the clues might have been. I had no clue, no feeling that anything bad was about to happen. It was just a random thing. God knows. It's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out. How could I possibly... I can tell you this. I don't lay down on that couch in the same place anymore. I know that's silly, but it's in my family room, and I used to lay on that couch and watch TV, but I don't lay there anymore. I will not put my head down in that same position that it was in when I had the stroke. Call it superstition or whatever. But I lay down, and I almost tense up and say, uh-oh, am I doing the same thing I did before that caused the stroke? That's how unknown it is. And there's nobody in the medical community that has any clue other than the stupid propaganda about high cholesterol, blah, 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 blah. And nothing gives any evidence that might be true. So I default back to the adage that my friend Kilt says, we're all going to die of something. And continue to live the best life I can live, feeling the best I can feel, with the hand I've been dealt for as long as I can. And that's the best we can do. And I made it to over 78 so far, which puts me in a minority among humans these days. And every year I get after this just makes me a member of a more exclusive club. But if you take out all those people who are as old as I am but very sick and spend their lives suffering and dealing with their conditions and don't have a chance to live or enjoy anything, I'm in a much, much smaller minority of people, because I don't know another 78-year-old that takes no prescriptions at all and has no medical conditions that need prescription drugs, simply because of my diet. And that's why I'm here. That's why I talk about it. So listen, everybody. Peter says goodbye. Have a great weekend. Everybody else says goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. See you on Sunday morning. Until then, take 2 days off, why don't you? I'm in a generous mood this morning. And, of course, eat meat.